Hi, thank you for joining our panel session today. Obviously, hopefully in the future, the next ones can be in person, that would be nice. So just to introduce myself, my name is Anais. I currently work as a press and PR executive for a luxury women's wear brand, but before this, I was a PRCA apprentice at a travel retail specialised boutique PR agency. And I was awarded the best, PR Apprentice of the Year award in 2019. And now I co-chair the Skills and Apprenticeship group with Anne, who is also on this, joining us today. So without further ado, I am delighted to welcome our panel, Celia, Tom and Luke, and I will let everyone introduce themselves and let you know a bit about themselves.
Who do you want to go first?
Celia, do you wanna lead?
Yeah, sure. I'm Celia. I'm 17 months into a PR apprenticeship with the PRCA, and I'm doing that at Galleon Ventures, which is consumer tech, B2B and B2C agency.
Tom?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Happy National Apprenticeship Week is how I'm introducing myself this week. My name's Tom. I'm one of two co-chairs, the other one you're going to meet in a second, of the London Young Apprentice Ambassador Network. As well as that voluntary role, my real life, if you want to call it real life, is at BT as a networks degree apprentice. I started September. I moved into my third year, so finishing in 2022. Very exciting. Nice to meet you all.
And last but not least, Luke.
Thanks, Anais. Hi, folks. I'm Luke. As Tom said, I have the wonderful privilege of co-chairing the London Young Apprenticeship Ambassador Network, which I'm sure we'll have a bit of a chat about in a second, but also by day, I'm fortunate enough to be a policy advisor working in the Cabinet Office.
Great, thank you. So let's get into our Q&A, and there will be time at the end if anyone wants to jump on camera or ask any questions to anyone on our panel. You can just drop a message in the chat, and then we can, when it comes to an end, we can have like a open discussion if anyone wants to do that. This panel session is being recorded and will be uploaded onto YouTube. The link will be shared to all attendees after. So if there was anything that you wanted to rewatch, you will be able to do that afterwards. So Celia, obviously you are still doing your apprenticeship. So when you were applying for your apprenticeship, how did you make sure that your application stood out when you were applying to be an apprentice?
I think it was probably the work experience that I'd had and like the volunteering, just because I think everyone does exams and that kind of thing, and it's hard to stand out with just your grades. Whereas I think having like some experience or some volunteering actually shows that you're interested in being in a workplace and that you've tried it and that it's something that you enjoy, and you're not going to kind of just turn up and then be like, oh, actually office work isn't for me. And it kind of helps you better find what apprenticeship is of interest. Like, is it PR? Is it, plumbing? Is it arts? Is it cooking? It could be anything. So I think it shows that you've actually tried some stuff and you know what you're getting in for.
Yeah, very, very good. Tom, a question for you. What advice would you give someone torn between doing a degree or doing an apprenticeship?
Sure. So what I would really say is it depends what you want to achieve, what kind of route you want to take. So I decided to do the degree apprenticeship route, which was kind of a hybrid between both. I'm sure some of you may have heard of them. That felt like the best thing for me because actually I kind of got the best of both worlds. Going to university full time wasn't quite for me. I didn't feel I was quite academic enough. But going into kind of a lower level apprenticeship definitely could have been an opportunity, but to kind of then look at how do I take the next step and next step and next step further on through my education. What would I choose to, what would I advise to everyone else who might be trying to choose one or the other? I would definitely say, what kind of individual are you? What kind of route do you want to take? Some people can deal with looking at books 24/7. That's something I didn't quite feel that I could. But just because you don't want to look at books 24/7 doesn't mean you can't do a degree. You know, listening to lectures 24/7 might not be what you want to do, but you can still get a degree. There are unique opportunities to be able to actually, you know, learn at university or college or whatever it might be, and then take that knowledge and implement it in the real world, and that's really, really rewarding.
Great answer, very good. Obviously, the best thing about being an apprentice is that you can work across all different industries and fields, like you said, Celia. Luke, what would you say? What tips would you say you have for getting into your industry, for example?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because my industry is something that I don't think many people explore or know enough about, in that it's slightly nuanced in public services, specifically in government. But what I would say, if you want to get in government, is that you have to have a willingness to make a change if you want to do good in the world, and if you want to make a change in the place that you live and in the place that other people live as well. That really drives you. So to get into government, you have to want to make a change. You have to be confident with your ideas and be assertive with your ideas, because believe me, sometimes that is tested. But apart from that, it's not that different to any other of the core skills that you need to get into any other industry. You need to have confidence. You need to, be assertive. You need to have all of these things. So yeah, apart from the kind of nuances of government, I would say it's pretty broadly applicable to all kinds of industries, which I'm sure all of us on the panel have had the pleasure of trying to demonstrate in our own respective industries. Yeah,
that's it's a great industry to be in, to be honest. I think more and more people are trying to get into it. They want to see their positive differences to their future. So back to you, Celia. What would you say is your highlight from your apprenticeship so far?
Probably before COVID, getting to kind of go to some events, stuff like that. I got to go to Design Week and some like toy awards and some toy fairs and stuff like that. It's just really exciting, because normally you wouldn't get to go to those kind of industry events that are only for professionals as a consumer. So that was really great to see that. And also you get to meet kind of press and media there. So it's a great place to kind of network and meet new people, which is something I hadn't really ever done before. You'd never really go to professional like networking events when you're at school. So that was definitely a highlight, though. I'm not sure when that will next be a possibility.
Fingers crossed soon. Fingers crossed very soon. So how would you say that you sort of organised your workload versus your apprenticeship work? Because obviously there's a lot going on in work, apprenticeship work, networking, your own personal stuff. So what advice would you give to someone who's trying to juggle all the different opportunities as well as their work and assignments?
Probably be really open with like your colleagues about it. They'll probably be able to help, because they've had to manage workloads as well. So my managers have been really helpful in, checking in with me, making sure it's like blocked off in your shared calendar with your colleagues, so that they know to like not bother you during that set afternoon or day. And just making sure you actually give yourself the time, because it's quite tempting to, do a work email here and there. And then before you know it, like your whole day is gone. So I think just be strict with yourself as well, and kind of almost treat it like a school timetable and be like, no, I don't work today, or something like that, just to kind of strike that balance and stop yourself getting behind. Yeah,
some good points there. I think balance is key. You want to make sure that you're staying as open communication as you can with everyone on your team, so they know what to expect from you and you know what to expect from them. Tom, do you want to let us know a bit about sort of what a typical day for you is?
Sure, yeah. It's really unpredictable, to be purely honest. Every day is different, particularly at the moment. Obviously, since March of last year, I've been working from home, as you can probably tell. And this has been where I've been kind of speaking to engineers all across all across the country about what we do as an organisation. So my particular team is effectively responsible for bringing new components into service. So taking cables and equipment from effectively being dumb machines to machines that help us communicate and connect across the whole of the United Kingdom. So it's UK's core network that effectively I work on, which we work on services like how we're communicating with each other now, of course, but also stuff like 999 services, emergency services, all the way through to government departments and some really important work. So yeah, it's come with unique challenges of us being able to only have limited number of engineers in our exchanges and in our buildings. So the way we communicate with them over the phone is a little bit like, oh, actually no, I need some help with this. It's like, well, actually we can't quite get the help because of COVID at the moment. But day to day, it's kind of come in, log on, check my emails, and then effectively we log on to the phones, which is just a bit like a call center. And engineers are calling into us all day long for us to give them help, support, troubleshooting, or to effectively enable them and equip them to do their work technically from a remote location. So yeah, that's kind of, in the most simplest terms, what I do on a daily basis, as well as the occasional meeting here and there talking about how amazing apprenticeships are, how we get into policy and plenty of other areas, which I'm sure we'll touch on later.
A lot going on, a lot going on. Obviously, you and Luke mentioned that you are part of YAN. So do you want to both tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. It is, I often found myself not having the time to openly reflect on what the last few months have been like. We got the position, we got the good news just as, in the height of lockdown. And so as you can imagine, it's been utterly intense. But at the same time, as that being intense, it's been so amazing and it's felt so natural to be kind of gifted with this role. And like I say, I don't often stop to think about it because it is go all the time. But it is honestly one of the biggest privileges of my relatively short career. And there's so many different reasons for it. You don't often in your career and your corporate life get to fuse a job that is, and I use job purposely because I'm sure Tom will agree, sometimes it does feel like a second day job, but I wouldn't change that for the world. You don't often get to fuse in your corporate life a job that captures, what you're absolutely passionate about and what you feel like one of your life's calling is, right? At the same time, that job you get to exert some pretty, in some places we get to exert because of the nature of the position, some really influential things, and we get to exert a lot of influence. So getting a job that fuses those things, and if someone had to ask me, Anais, Luke, what would your ideal perfect job be? It would be something not too dissimilar to chairing the YAN. So yeah, it is a massive privilege, not just because I get to spend a lot of my working life co-chairing with Tom, and which is just a massive privilege. I'm continually blown away by his capability. And it's almost, he's the yin to my yang, so it works perfectly. But also just the people we meet day in, day out, the apprentices who are just rife with potential and talent and passion and all of these things that we all care about when we think about apprenticeships. We have a group in London specifically, but all over the country for the YAN that just encapsulate all of those amazing things. And I'm really, when we say they are the best about apprenticeships, they are the living, breathing heart of apprenticeship. So yeah, it's a massive privilege getting to not just shepherd these people into hopefully better things in the future, but to shout and scream from the rooftops about how amazing, as we all know, apprenticeships are to the people who need it. So yeah, I mean, hey, listen, that was a bit cathartic for me, but yeah, it is amazing, and it's just such an absolute privilege to do it alongside the day job.
Yeah, I think also, you know, the people who join the AN have a huge opportunity to shape not just the next generation of apprentices, but also policy and so much more. From the ground level, the YAN, the Young Apprentice Ambassador Network, exists to go into schools and to talk about apprenticeships. That's it, and to fight the stigma. Yeah, because let's be honest, we know that there still is a stigma around apprenticeships as being a lesser route than university. So we've got a long way to go, first and foremost. What we've got to do is get fantastic apprentices who we have already, but we want more, to continue to share that message about about their story and share that, because they are the most inspirational people we have. What we in return are trying to offer to them is opportunities to you know, push themselves. So they're delivered training on public speaking and delivering their presentations into schools. They're given the platform to do that, however little or much they'd like to. But also myself and Luke are working on a few kind of new pieces, which is kind of a new and emerging part of our network, which effectively is going to give people the platform to speak to ministers, to speak to parliamentarians, and actually say, you know, what could the government do and what aren't the government doing to improve life for an apprentice. You know, an example today was not today, I think it was on Wednesday or Tuesday, I've lost track, this week's flown by. We had an apprentice panel speaking to the Minister for Apprenticeships. You know, yes, it's National Apprenticeship Week, but these kind of things happen all year round, and we're really looking to get more people involved with the network and having the opportunities to scream from the rooftops, as Luke says.
Thank you, Anne, who has reminded us that the APPG discussion was on Tuesday. So
I am so sorry, Anne. I've lost track of days, I have to admit.
It is all moulding into one these days.
It's fine, Tom, I'll forgive you, but it just sounds really interesting. Sorry, I'm just kind of weighing in here, but I just thought it's like everything that you guys are doing is just really inspiring, and I'm very jealous that I didn't get to. It wasn't, like you said, around the stigma, that was never an option that was presented to me. So it's something that yeah, I'm very keen to learn more about. So thank you.
Thank you, Anne. So obviously great answers from Luke and Tom, thank you very much. Luke, you said that you speak very highly of YAM, but you said it can be, you joked that it is a second day job. Yeah. So for anyone, any apprentices that are considering sort of extra responsibilities outside of their apprenticeships, maybe similar to YAN or other ambassador programs or something, what advice would you give someone who wants to sort of pursue their own sort of thing, but while still staying on top of their work and their apprenticeship?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's the golden question, isn't it? It's a decision point that we reach so many times, it seems, in our working lives. And I think the first thing to do is just to be real with yourself. Often, you know, when we get caught up in the cycle, we don't give ourselves that space to really assess whether we have the capacity to take something new on. And you know, when you think about all these things like burnout, when you think about all these things like doing too much such that it negatively affects your mental health, you've got to have a really serious conversation with yourself about whether you have the capacity to take new things on. And then once you do that, I think it's always helpful to align those new things, those extracurricular activities, if you will, to something that you know, you care about, to something that you enjoy doing. I would not, I speak candidly and frankly here, I would not have the willpower to put as many hours as I do into the ad if I didn't really love it, I didn't really enjoy it. So what I would say is, first of all, have a really frank conversation with yourself about whether you have the capacity and the space to take new things on. If you do, absolutely amazing, go for it. Try and make it something you really enjoy, because that'll make the whole process easier. And remember that, you know, thinking pragmatically, it's always good to take new things on. Exactly as Celia was saying, you don't get a shining CV, you don't get a shining reference if you don't do those extra things, if you don't go the extra mile. So So I think a consideration of all of those three things in combination should put you in a pretty good place if you want to take new things on.
Definitely, yeah. And anything that can make you stand out, and you get such a rounded experience when you just try all different things. And obviously you're meeting all different people from all different walks of life and their careers. So it's a really great opportunity to get involved with as many things as you can. Obviously you're coming towards the end of your apprenticeship, Celia, so congratulations first of all. But sort of following on from what Luke said, probably for a lot of apprentices who are just starting out, maybe their first proper job, it can probably seem quite daunting or intimidating to have to all of a sudden have all these responsibilities. So what advice would you give to apprentices that are sort of just starting out, maybe their first time in a professional environment, or just starting out on their journey?
Probably not to be afraid of like asking loads of questions, because I think it's really scary just going into the workplace when everyone just has that general know-how, and everyone around you is actually really experienced at what they do. But actually use that to your advantage and pick their brains and ask extra questions and ask to jump into opportunities, even if you feel like it's way out of your league. It doesn't matter, because you're just there to learn. And I think it's easy to suddenly think like you need to be really good at your job and you need to, know all this stuff straight away. Whereas no one expects that. They know you're an apprentice, they know you're learning. So just ask questions and jump into opportunities and not be afraid to kind of fail at them, because you're just learning.
Definitely. I always say questions are the best thing. Like, just, you should never be embarrassed to ask questions. I think even people higher up in companies ask so many questions you just don't know, because probably they don't ask them to the people that you're asking. Thank you, that was a very good answer, thank you. So with Jan, obviously I imagine you've had a plethora of opportunities. Tom, do you want to maybe tell us some standout opportunities that you've had outside of your apprenticeship and your position that have come from Jan?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, I have to say the number one thing is the people I've met. Obviously, Luke being one of them. We are, funnily enough, fun fact, London is the only Jan region to have 2 chairs. And clearly myself and Luke applied for it when that came out. And when you're told, we're going to choose 2 of you, it's a bit like, I really hope we get on, because if we don't get on, this is just going to be a disaster. It wasn't. Luckily myself and Luke are quite like-minded. But actually, what I then realised after meeting more and more ambassadors from not just across London, but across the nation, that a lot of apprentices are like-minded, because they have the attitude, the drive, the enthusiasm to get a job and learn at the same time and take on ambassadorial activities on top of that. So first and foremost, the best thing that's happened so far, I think, is the people I've met. The instances of which I've met them are different, kind of more individual cases. Some that stick out in my mind were the opportunities that I've had to talk to people, of course, to try my best to inspire people to take up an apprenticeship, or maybe not take up one, but consider one. If we've got to the consider stage, then we're achieving something. Is that I spoke to UCAS on Monday. That was live streamed on their page. It was a great opportunity, and being able to speak on those platforms about being an apprentice and why they're so amazing is fantastic. What I would say is it's not just a Jan chair who gets the opportunity to do that. Plenty of our members get the opportunity to do that as well. So the opportunities are there from day one. I think it was 2019 now, it feels so long ago. In October, I went to the National World Skills event at the NEC in Birmingham. It is the largest careers event of the annual calendar. Effectively what it is a huge, massive competition of different industries, and you can walk around and there's people in from car manufacturing to fashion design to forensic science, and you can actually see them all doing cool stuff, and some of it's a little bit graphic because they have stuff like butchery and all that kind of stuff as well. So but you get to see people doing real stuff. It's amazing, it blows your mind. And I spent 3 days there, 2 of which on like the apprenticeship stalls, the National Apprenticeship Service stalls, talking about apprenticeships. But the 3rd day I spent at the Apprenticeship Ambassador Conference, meeting hundreds of other young apprentice ambassadors and apprentice ambassadors, so employer ambassadors. It's all put on for you, and food and drinks, and it's really nice to network with people. So that's been a couple of my highlights. And others I think have been thanks to the involvement of the YAN, but not particularly directly related to the YAN. So being shortlisted for awards at work, being shortlisted to we had a colleague board that we appointed. So, you get like your board of directors. Well, at BT, we decided to appoint a board of employees, so team members, like lower senior managers who could speak directly with the CEO. I was very lucky to get to the final 11 for that process. Final 18, I think it was, for that process, which was fantastic. But it was because I had so many pins on my sash, if you like, because of the YAN and all the opportunities that I had. I felt like a real Boy Scout there with that statement. But it's all of that experience that is built up through the different things that you get involved with, many of which was many events that I'd done through the YAN that builds that up. And obviously the training as well. The training when you become a YAN, which is one of the first things you do, is fantastic, albeit virtually at the moment, slightly less ideal, but it's a great opportunity.
Thank you, Tom. So obviously as much as I'd like to ignore the pandemic that is going on, it's a very current thing. So for lots of apprentices that are applying now or are in the middle of their process of applying, it's probably unlikely that they will be joining their role as the traditional way or being in the office with everyone. So a question for everyone, I think, would be good, is how has the pandemic affected your work and your study? Celia, if you'd like to start.
Yeah, I think it's definitely been harder in the sense that opportunities that you might have just come across, you kind of need to seek out more. Like for me, I used to sit in an office and occasionally there'd be like a new business chat and I'd just be listening in by chance, whereas now you kind of need to jump on those and say, oh, can I join that call, or oh, can I listen in? And I think it's easy to kind of forget to do that almost and just focus on the tasks you've got, whereas you need to just kind of ask a bit more. I think checking in with managers as well, proactively kind of saying, oh, I need help here, or oh, I need help there, and not forgetting that. To keep asking questions, because I've found myself doing this. I'm asking less because when you type them out, they can feel annoying or blunt or something like that. And I think knowing when to stop with your study work, because I think the issue is there is no like set work hours for your study and the essay writing, and especially with not being able to go out and working from home, it's hard to kind of get that balance to just know when to stop and just take some time away from a screen, really. So kind of trying to keep that rough work hours still to keep you sane.
Very, very good answer. Thank you, Celia. Luke, same question.
It's a difficult one, and I mean, let's not pretend it's in some way or another it's made work and study that little bit harder. I think you'll be a hard chance to come across someone whose work has been absolutely to the point streamlined by the pandemic, whether it be your apprenticeship or work. So yeah, I think, let's be honest, it has made it a little bit harder. But and Celia, you kind of hit the nail on the head. where you had before that kind of commute, maybe to and back from work, to kind of switch off, right? You just don't have that anymore. You don't have that time in between things. And so it all conglomerates into one strange instance of just keep on working. You know, it's an intense rolling of work. But on the flip side, you know, we can't focus on why is this horrible thing, even though it is. On the flip side, you know, I've never been in more contact with my apprenticeship coach, right? We speak all the time now because we have the ability to. We don't have to wait for an in-person meeting, and it's almost expected that you speak more. And so whilst you do have negatives like not being able to collaborate with colleagues in the way you usually do when you're in person, and not being able to, you know, speaking humanly, also not having that real kind of human connection with people like you once did in the office or wherever it is you work. There are positives as well, you know. Whilst we, you know, don't have a turning off time, it also means that we can be more flexible. Whilst we can't speak to colleagues, it also means that, you know, we're encouraged to put more meetings in. So you know, it's a trade-off. There are twos and fro's, but yeah, I think in the round, I think we have to be honest and say it has made things that little bit harder.
Agreed. Tom?
Yeah, I just really echo what Celia and Luke have said. You know, you're absolutely right. You know, you can see I'm in my bedroom. This is where I work every single day. This is where I've been since March. We used the term before COVID, roll out of bed. I literally roll out of bed and I'm at work. And this, you know, and this is the world that we live in now. I know some people are even less likely to have the couple of meters that I do have to be able to work. So yes, there are challenges. Especially if space could be a restraint at home. But you know, it has its pros, of course. Just this week, National Apprenticeship Week's been a bit crazy. I would normally be driving all across London and Hertfordshire and the surrounding areas for different events and meetings. Now I am doing it in about 10 seconds from quit Zoom call, join Zoom call. And that 30-40 minute drive or commute is particularly important because it gives you a moment to stop, to do whatever you might do. You might read a book, you might listen to music, you might even just check up on your emails in a slow and kind of a measured way, where now it just feels like it's one meeting, finish that meeting, straight on to the next. I don't need any gap. I finish one meeting at 4:59 and the next one starts at 5. You know, that's the kind of environment that we're living in now. But the important thing is that you find a balance, that if you do go, no, I've got 2 back-to-back meetings, I cannot add a third, it is important. What have I learned to do through lockdown, I think, is actually try and switch off, and this week is an exception, clearly. Try and switch off at 4:30. You know, I work 8 until 4:30. If I've got Yan stuff to do, I try and do it during my working day. You know, part of what we ask when people join the network is that they have the support of their line manager in their business to inspire the next generation. It helps the business as well, because that apprentice can go and tell them about how amazing their business is. Or how amazing the PRCA is. But you know, that's what we have the support of line managers there for. I try and do everything within my working day so that at 4:30 I can stop, 5:30 latest, and just go, right, cool, I've done a good day's of work, spend some time with my family, maybe just catch up with friends who are at university and all around the country now. Now I'm 21, so obviously some of my friends decided to go to university full time, some took gap years, some did other things. We're all spread out across the country now. Catch up with them and you know, a virtual Zoom quiz, you know, that makes everyone feel good.
Joy.
I'm glad you all talked about balance, because yeah, that is really important. That's the thing that I think most people have found hardest, especially when their living space has become their workspace. Like, it's hard to enjoy time at home without thinking about work, or just feeling like you're always on the job or always in the office. I think one thing that is become really clear since spending a lot of time at home is like, people don't realize what is going on in the office or how much work is being delegated to people. So when you're in the office, your manager will hear if another manager comes and speaks to you and asks you to do something. But when you're at home, you don't have this sort of open communication with everyone in the office. So I think it's really important to make sure that you're telling your manager or your line manager or your colleague what other stuff you have going on, because the chances are that all the other managers don't know that they're all giving you all this work. So it's good to communication is key. Communication is always key. I think we actually all have a question, if that you're welcome to ask Abdul Rahman, if you want to join and ask a question, your question.
Yes, hi, thank you. Thanks guys for everything so far. It's been lovely to hear. I remember that one of you mentioned that you're in second year university, I think, and you're still doing apprenticeship. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, kind of second/third year of my degree. Yeah, in my third year of my apprenticeship. Yeah.
Yeah. So that got me thinking, because I'm also second year, and hopefully I'll be doing my third year next year. And because it's been much harder, obviously, because of the pandemic, to get a job. Do you think someone in my situation should even think that maybe apprenticeship could be an option? If so, what do I do? Do you think I have a chance, and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good question, and particularly I do sympathise with some of my friends are at university full time and in different situations, and I sympathise with people who are looking to get onto the career ladder now. What I would say is that anybody can do an apprenticeship, and what I mean by that is that I work with colleagues who did what I did, which I did the, if you like, the traditional, finished my A-levels, went to do a degree apprenticeship, and that's what I did. I was very lucky to be able to do that. Some of my colleagues went to university and dropped out. Some went to university, graduated, trained as a teacher, and then decided, nope, teaching isn't for me, and came into technology at BT as an apprentice. So what I would say is that try and look at an apprenticeship as a route in. What I would advise is, doing an apprenticeship, if you're a graduate, for example, doing an apprenticeship, if your degree is in the area that you want to go into, doing an apprenticeship may financially not be the best thing, because you might be going down to I'm not saying the gap between graduate pay and apprenticeship pay is coming together. Okay, that's something important to reference. But actually, if I had just done a degree in computer science, I might look at a technology apprenticeship, but I'm going to want to try to go for the technology graduate scheme, because that's going to ultimately pay me more and give me the 2 years to settle in on that dedicated scheme. So what I would say is, do whatever you're doing. The fact that you're here now speaks a lot. Yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of other people doing your degree and studying exactly the same way you are, who are not on this call, hearing about careers and thinking about your future. Okay, that's a statement in itself. What I would say is that look at the graduate schemes, look at what's available to you, give it a shot. With every application, you're going to get some feedback to take on board to think about. But if you do start to really struggle and you start to see something, an opportunity like an apprenticeship that just sounds of interest, why not apply? Yeah, because at the end of the day, if they come back to you and say, yes, we'd like to give you the role, and at that point you think, do I still want it? That's fine. You can still turn around and say no, but actually that whole process might have been a really good way to practice assessment centers, interviews, all of those fun stuff that we're going to have to do. So I wouldn't say don't do an apprenticeship. I would, if I were in your position personally, I probably would have been looking at graduate schemes and what I can, but I appreciate that the market is going to be congested and competitive. So at that point, I don't think an apprenticeship would be a bad thing to fall back on. And there's always opportunities for progression. There's an opportunity possibly to have 2 degrees. That can't be a bad thing. If you've enjoyed learning, why not carry on learning? So I wouldn't write it off. I would consider your personal situation. It's quite a tricky question, but it's a good one. So thank you for asking it.
Sorry, just one more thing. Where would you suggest I can look for? Because you said it's something that I could fall back on, and if it comes to that, then I take it. So
Sure.
because I've never really considered apprenticeship before, and also I've only been in the UK for 2 years. So to be honest, I don't even know much about it, but I'm learning here in these talks. So where would you think someone that's looking for apprenticeship, where do they go to look? Is there a particular place for it?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and this is a slightly difficult answer, if I may, because apprenticeships are a job at the end of the day, just as a graduate scheme is a job, and because of that, there is no one central location to go. There is, but saying that, there is a government website called Find an Apprenticeship. If you were to Google Find an Apprenticeship, you'll find the government website. That has an awful lot of apprenticeship vacancies available on it. The way I would think of that is think of that as the government-funded read.com for apprentices. Okay, it's a job finder funded by the government specifically for apprentices, but not every employer of apprentices will use that platform to find their applicants. Okay. If you're looking at kind of big brands, so people like the BBC, people like Sky, people like the big banks or Royal Mail, or all of the kind of brands we see on TV, yeah, I would recommend a website called Vacancy Snapshot. That's on the amazing Apprenticeships website, which I will include in the chat window for you. Now that is a fantastic tool, and there is so much information on that website for you to have a look at. But specifically, the Vacancy Snapshot page will show you those large employers who are recruiting apprentices, and also what you can do on there is filter it to the industry that you're interested in. So for example, if I was interested in business and administration, I could click that and it will only show me those big brands who recruit apprenticeships in that space. That's what I used, but because I wanted to particularly work for a big organization. So just a few names who I applied for: BT, Google, PwC, IBM, those big names. We've all heard of those kind of organizations. That was what I wanted to do, but there are plenty of smaller organizations who recruit just as credible apprenticeships as well. I hope that answers your question.
That and more, definitely.
Just to follow on from Tom, actually, I personally found my apprenticeship and the PRCA through Twitter. So I would recommend exploring all different channels, even on social media, because nowadays so many organizations and brands and even individuals are using different social media sites. You'd be surprised, like even Instagram, you probably will find a role or a company that might be interesting that you want to get in touch with. So yeah, like Tom said, there's all different avenues that you can explore, just depending on sort of the industry or the size of the company.
Sorry, yeah, that's a really good point on social media. It is vitally important, and also LinkedIn is a fantastic platform as well to use if you're not already on it, both for finding jobs, but also just to shout about yourself and tell everybody how great you are, because it's unbelievable how quickly you can build a good network. So and that hasn't always got to be talking about work. That could be talking about what you're doing in your studies, what you find interesting, what fascinates you, what inspires you. That's the kind of reasons why employers will pick their candidates.
Yeah, obviously it's a bit harder now with what's going on, but also like networking events and places where you'll meet other people, because they might know someone who knows someone, or they might be able to bring you along to something, or you might find out all about something that you've never heard of before just through meeting other people. So yeah, LinkedIn is probably not the only way you can network at the moment, but probably your best bet, because people are super active on there now more than ever. It's just about sort of getting your feelers out and consuming as much as you can from all different places to get a really rounded picture. But thank you very much for that question. It was a really great question. So yeah, thank you for that. Another question for everyone. How do you feel that the apprenticeship has benefited you as a person, and what impacts do you feel it has had or will have on your career? Just sort of following on from previous points. Celia, I don't know if you wanted to start.
Probably the fact that it's actually really well-rounded experience. I think what put me off stuff like apprenticeships when I was younger and thought I was going to go to uni was that I thought it was such a niche thing. Like, if you do an apprenticeship in X career, that's where you'll be the rest of your life. Whereas actually what I've found since being on the job is those kind of skills are applicable to so many careers. Like, even something as simple as taking call notes, it really doesn't matter what industry you're in, that's a skill you have. And, you know, learning teamwork, learning time management, these are all things you just need for every single career. But actually taking an apprenticeship lets you learn those things. So I think, yeah, that's probably what I've learned most of all, just like well-rounded skills that any career or any industry would look for.
Sorry, I accidentally put myself on mute. Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Luke?
Yeah, you know, when I think about it, apprenticeships as a concept has had the most unbelievable, profound impact on my life, because I'll let you in on a little secret, and now I think about it, everyone who watches this on YouTube, I guess they'll know too. I was a bit of a weird 16-year-old and 15-year-old. I knew I wanted to be in government, and that was a weird thing, because 15 and 16-year-olds don't know what a civil service is often. So the way I got into there and the way I kind of realized my ambition at that point in my life was through an apprenticeship. An apprenticeship was the catalyst for me reaching that goal at that stage in my life. And the same is true for getting to do this, getting to chair Leanne. Naturally, I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't, you know, do the apprenticeship. So in totality, the apprenticeship, and I'm on my second one now. So the apprenticeships, plural, has changed my life for the positive in so many unbelievable ways. And that's what that's the kind of message to take home. That's the kind of, you know, message to write down in your notebooks, that apprenticeships are becoming this thing. It's becoming this force in the world now, where it can bring about really, really significant change in people's lives, whether that's through your career, whether that's through your, you know, career prospects, whether that's through your network, your relationships. And all of these things, relative to me specifically, and just speaking about me, but knowing this is shared for most people who do an apprenticeship, is that apprenticeship has been the catalyst for reaching all of those amazing things and doing all of those amazing things and having all of these amazing experiences, including, of course, having the privilege to speak on a panel like I am tonight. So yeah, that's what I would say. Apprenticeships have had the most, you know, amazing and gargantuan positive impact on my life, I think. And I know that's shared for many, many, many people.
Thank you, Luke. Over to you, Tom.
Yeah, you know, it's been a fantastic experience so far. First of all, coming into it, you know, you've got a perfect, you know, and I always thought, oh, is it going to be like this and is it not? Because I always thought that starting my apprenticeship, I was going to have a lot of learning that I was going to do at university, that I could actually just go and do. Ultimately, just take it back to work and just do it. You know, not everything you learn at university you can do at work. I think you'll find that university degrees are really broad and really comprehensive, which is great. You learn a lot, but actually the real work that I do in my day job is actually more condensed than that. It's smaller, especially within a big organization. We're a decent sized team that do a very specific piece of work. But the fact is, I've been able to have colleagues next to me at work who I can turn around with and ask questions and support for my university studies. You know, normally you'd have to email your course tutor, set up an appointment, blah, blah, blah. I can just turn around and look across the desk normally, obviously not right now, but normally. I can just look across and just be like, Gary, tell me about IP protocols. And it's like, bang, cool, straight away, I'm speaking to someone with 35 years of experience. Yeah. And although you were all thinking IP protocols, what is this madman all about? What is this madman on about? You know, I didn't have a clue what I was asking for, but actually by the end of that 5-minute, 10-minute conversation with a colleague who's worked in the industry for that long, it's like, wow, my mind is open. And yeah, you do get the occasional opportunity to actually go, you know, oh, what we're talking about in class, actually, I did this at work. You know, this is actually quite interesting because this makes sense. I can see how my work impacts the wider world. So do consider that. You know, I've been really lucky to get my scheme, but I will always say it's as much as you make of it. I was somebody who really wanted to, or somebody who still is, hopefully one day lead a team and look after a team of people. And my line manager, my now line manager, but at the time was an apprentice, saw this. She was in her 3rd year and I was in my 1st year. So she's now a couple of years off of her apprenticeship scheme. And she now leads my team, which is a team of 11 people. And when she's not around, she decided, because I was interested in leading a team in the future, that she would leave me in charge to look after a team of 10 people when she's gone, which is great. You know, when she's not around, I look after a group of 10 people who do really important work for our business, and not just for our business, but for the country. And when I reflect on that, that's amazing. Nobody who I've met has ever said, no, I can't help you. Everyone's offered great opportunities. I've shadowed engineers in the field. I was about to go to our national control centre in Ipswich, but that isn't quite happening yet because of COVID, but I'm sure it will one day. Everyone's just been super nice and super helpful. I'm sure I would have met lovely people at university, great friends, but actually I did the comparison in numbers when I first started my apprenticeship, and comparing the route that I did versus some people who went to university, the amount of money that I was making over a 4-year period versus going to university and doing a 3-year degree was over £100,000. So it's definitely a life choice, but actually it's an opportunity to grow and develop. So yeah, 100%. It's been incredibly rewarding.
We all love an IP protocol, by the way.
Thank you, Tom and Luke and Celia. So unless anyone else has any other questions that they want to ask anyone individually or in the group, I think that kind of wraps up today's session. I just want to say a huge thank you to our panel. Fantastic answers, really very good, and thank you to everyone that joined and sent in their questions. I do want to say for everyone to keep an eye out, because we will be having our next Skills and Apprenticeships group event, which Anne, who you briefly saw, will be leading, and this is happening on the 29th of April. We can't disclose too much information yet, but it will be how apprenticeships can support young people into an employment. So keep an eye out for more information and to sign up there. And yeah, I just want to say another thank you to everyone that joined, and of course our speakers. So yes, thank you very much, everyone. And here's to hopefully all being able to be in the same room sometime in the not too distant future.